Video opens with a shot of a dark city skyline. The only light is from the moon. Cut to a close-up of a kitchen tap. A single, final drop of water falls. The sound is loud in the profound silence. The modern world is built upon a delicate, interconnected web of systems we rarely consider. We flick a switch, and a room is flooded with light. We turn a faucet, and clean, safe water flows without question. But this convenience is a fragile illusion, entirely dependent on one single, sprawling infrastructure, the electrical grid. When that grid dies, not for a day or a week, but forever, the foundational pillars of our civilization begin to crumble. And the first to fail, with shocking and devastating speed, is our access to water. The consequences of this are not a matter of dramatic speculation. They are a certainty dictated by the unyielding laws of physics and engineering. The end of water begins the moment the lights go out. The initial failure is almost instantaneous. Across every city, town, and suburb, countless electric pumps are the unseen heart of the water distribution network. They are what push trillions of gallons of water from treatment plants, through a labyrinth of subterranean mains, and up into our homes, schools, and hospitals. Without electricity, these pumps simply stop. There is no backup. No alternative power source capable of sustaining such a massive and energy-intensive operation indefinitely. The immediate result is a catastrophic loss of pressure. In elevated areas or at the far reaches of a municipal system, the flow from the tap might slow to a trickle within minutes. For most, the water will continue to run for a few hours, fed by the residual pressure and the gravity-fed water remaining in local water towers and reservoirs. But this is a fleeting grace period. Soon, the last drops will fall, the pipes will run dry, and a profound, unnerving silence will replace the familiar hum of a functioning water system. The age of readily available water will have ended. Within a day, the reality of the situation becomes starkly clear. The water has stopped flowing from the taps, and it is not coming back. At the source, the great water treatment plants sprawling industrial complexes dedicated to making raw water safe for human consumption will have fallen silent. These facilities rely on a constant, massive supply of electricity to power the pumps that draw water from rivers, lakes, and underground aquifers. They need power for the complex, multi-stage filtration processes that remove sediment, debris, and microscopic organisms. Crucially, they need power for the automated systems that inject precise amounts of chlorine, the chemical shield that protects us from waterborne pathogens like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. Without power, all these processes cease. The reservoirs of treated water will be static, their contents no longer replenished. The water in the rivers and lakes will still be there, but it will be raw, untreated, and increasingly dangerous to consume. The barrier between clean water and disease will have been erased. The problem extends beyond just the supply of clean water. It quickly cripples our ability to dispose of waste. Modern sanitation is another miracle of engineering completely reliant on the grid. When you flush a toilet, gravity does some of the work, but over any significant distance. The wastewater flows into a sewer system that depends on a network of electric lift stations. These are essentially powerful pumps that push the sewage onward and upward, against the natural contours of the land until it reaches a wastewater treatment plant. When the power fails, these lift stations stop working. The flow of sewage halts, and with nowhere to go, it begins to back up. The lowest points in the system basements, ground floor apartments, and low-lying urban areas will be the first to experience the horrifying consequences. Raw, untreated sewage will backflow through the pipes, emerging from floor drains, toilets, and showers. After the 1 or 2 flushes possible with the water stored in the toilet's tank and bowl, the system becomes useless. The inability to dispose of human waste will turn homes and entire city blocks into unsanitary and hazardous environments, creating the perfect breeding ground for disease on a scale not seen in the developed world for over a century. While this crisis will eventually affect everyone, some sectors of society will feel the impact with terrifying immediacy. Hospitals and nursing homes, places that house the most vulnerable among us, are designed with an absolute dependence on a constant supply of clean water. It is essential for sanitation, for sterilization of medical instruments, for dialysis machines, for basic hydration and hygiene of patients who are often immobile or have compromised immune systems. These facilities typically have emergency water storage, but these reserves are designed to last for hours or, at most, a few days during a temporary outage. In a permanent grid-down scenario, these stockpiles will be exhausted with catastrophic speed. Doctors and nurses will be left unable to wash their hands, clean wounds, or provide patients with a simple drink of water. The standard of care will plummet, and these havens of healing will quickly become centers of infection and despair. The most fragile members of society will be the first casualties of the water crisis. As the taps remain dry, the public's attention will turn to the only remaining source of safe, clean water, bottled water. But this is a resource that exists in finite and surprisingly small quantities relative to the population. The average person requires at least 1 gallon of water per day for drinking and basic sanitation. A city of 1 million people would therefore require 1 million gallons per day. The stockpiles in supermarkets and distribution warehouses, which seem vast under normal circumstances, would be stripped bare within days. The realization that there will be no resupply will trigger frantic panic buying, hoarding, and eventually, conflict. The sight of empty shelves where water once stood will be a powerful psychological blow, signaling the true severity of the collapse. The social contract, already fraying, will begin to tear as desperation for this most essential resource overrides all other concerns. A plastic bottle of water will become more valuable than gold. The long-term consequences are even more grim. The water that remains in the millions of miles of pipes beneath our feet will not stay safe for long. Without the constant flow and the protective residual chlorine maintained by the treatment plants, this water becomes stagnant. Stagnation is the enemy of safety. It allows any bacteria present in the system to multiply unchecked. Biofilms, which are complex colonies of microorganisms, will flourish on the interior surfaces of the pipes. Furthermore, without positive pressure pushing outwards, there is a significant risk of intrusion. Contaminants from the surrounding soil, including chemicals, pesticides, and bacteria from leaking sewage lines, can seep into the water mains through cracks and faulty joints. Anyone who manages to draw water from a low point in the system days or weeks into the crisis will be accessing a stagnant, potentially toxic soup. The risk of widespread outbreaks of waterborne diseases will become an ever-present threat. We have seen small-scale previews of this very scenario. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, which affected 55 million people, numerous municipalities immediately issued boil water advisories as water pressure dropped below safe levels, raising fears of contamination. The system was only saved by the relatively quick restoration of power. A more severe example occurred during the 2021 Texas winter storm, where prolonged power outages caused hundreds of water systems to fail. Pipes froze and burst, treatment plants lost power, and millions of people were left without running water for days on end, forced to boil snow or line up for hours for bottled water. These events, though temporary, demonstrate the direct and immediate link between the electrical grid and water security. Now, imagine these scenarios not as a temporary emergency lasting a few days, but as a permanent, irreversible reality, scaled globally. The documented findings from agencies like the EPA and FEMA on water utility vulnerabilities, along with studies from the American Water Works Association, all point to the same stark conclusion. Our water infrastructure is critically and fatally dependent on the grid. In the end, the story of water in a world without power is a story of regression. It is a rapid descent from a society of effortless convenience to one of primitive, daily struggle. The search for drinkable water will become the central, all-consuming task of daily existence. People will be forced to turn to contaminated sources, stagnant ponds, polluted rivers, and collected rainwater. They will have to relearn ancient, half-forgotten skills of filtration and purification, and they will do so with a high rate of failure. Disease will run rampant. Society will reorganize itself not around cities and commerce, but around the few remaining sources of viable water. The quiet, empty tap is more than just an inconvenience. It is a symbol of the end. It signifies the moment our complex, technological world was forced to confront the most basic and unforgiving of all truths. Without water, there is no life.